All right, shall we get started? Hello. How's everyone doing today? I hope. Oh, there we go. Now we're in focus. Guess I need to edit the. Make sure it's not. Oh, it is on auto. Give me 1 second, but welcome to the stream. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I know I'm having a really good day so far. Started off the day with an instrument fitting, and it was a very fun time. It's always chaotic doing instrument fitting / instrument petting zoos, but it's a good chaotic, especially when you see students who are excited and play good notes when they've never played a brass instrument before, you know? It's a pretty cool thing. But anyways, we're here today to go through the GMEA All State Etudes for tuba. I'm just gonna start before we play them. I'm gonna go in order, starting with middle school and work our way up to the symphonic band. I'll do the lyrical one, then the technical one. I'll try to set a timer, but we'll try to go for about 10 minutes per each one. I will play each one in its entirety about twice at least. I'll start with attempt to play through, and then I'll work things out. And then when the timer is up, I'll give one more playthrough for each etude. And then time in between when I finish the first playthrough and the second playthrough, or however many, if I play through it once or twice before, we're just going to talk about each etude. I'm going to make suggestions about what I would suggest to work on for each etude to prepare it, and just give other general tips and advice. But before we get into the first etude, the middle school lyrical, I just want to take a second to talk about just some general tips and tricks that and I'll probably reiterate some of these at some point or another as they come up, but this is kind of how I recommend. Obviously, I don't recommend just spending only 10 minutes working on them. I'm doing that just to save time. But I highly recommend whenever you start working on the etudes, just try the first time you look at it, take some time to look through it, identify things that you think could be problemsome. Make sure you have the key clearly defined, the time signature clearly defined. Look for any additional accidentals. Look for any weird rhythms. Look for high notes or low notes. Look for anything that looks like it could be a trouble spot. And it doesn't matter what tempo you take. You can take it as fast or as slow as you want, but just try to make it all the way through once before you start actively working on it. That's my biggest suggestion, so that you get some experience with playing through all of it from the very beginning. Yeah, because obviously, otherwise, if you like start just by breaking it completely down, you might get caught up in those first 1 to 2 measures, and then by the time the audition rolls around in November, December, whenever it is, you might not be ready for it because maybe you haven't made it to that last few measures, or you've only played it once or twice because you've kind of worked your way from the bottom up. So always make sure you run through it at least once, or I would say just once, before you start breaking things down, and then take it slow. Do a measure by measure. Isolate notes. If notes feel high to you, try to play it down an octave. Specific passages, sometimes that'll be impossible for you, but I think it's still a good attempt, even if you might not know what I'm talking about. But the point is, just play it in an octave or partial range that's comfortable for you. So maybe it's too low, take it up an octave if you're more comfortable with it up an octave. Too high, take it down an octave. Because ultimately, the notes are basically the same. Obviously, they're different octave to octave, but at the end of the day, an A is an A is an A is an A. Right? I'm trying to think of any other general tips. Take it slow, especially the technical etudes. Don't be afraid to take them slow. I would say, I mean, of course, we want to keep the tempos in mind, but kind of ignore them a little bit for the first little bit. Just focus on getting clear notes. Obviously, I do recommend using a metronome with both etudes, just making sure you're keeping consistent time. But yeah, and then also I would recommend just focus on only the lyrical for the first month or two, and don't touch the technical until you feel somewhat comfortable with the lyrical. Because ultimately, if you can't even play the lyrical well, you won't have to play the technical. So I wouldn't say no point, but there's very little point in working on the technical if you're not even comfortable with what's going to be in the first round. So, just a thought. Of course, if you're playing the lyrical and you just feel like really frustrated with it, then I would say that might be a good time to take a look at the technical just to play something different. Because that's also something important, is don't just get bogged down into it. If you feel frustrated with how you're practicing it, take some time off of it. Because obviously, practicing for any sort of audition, no matter whether it's GMEA or college audition or some really great orchestral gig, you have to pace yourself. Take your time. Because if you don't like what you're playing, then your judges aren't going to like it either. So always think about that. And another thing because I'm probably going to do at least one more of these, because I admit today was I think I looked at it once really briefly a couple days ago, one of the etudes, but today's pretty much the first day I've looked at these etudes. I looked at them really briefly earlier today so I could take snapshots of them for the thumbnail for this. But beyond that, I haven't really taken a look at these, but I mean, for me, I think I played versions of these at some point or another, since they're now going off of Bordonis and stuff like that. I think I played these before at some point, maybe not in this way, but yeah, I don't know. So I'm not too worried about it. because I played a lot of these. But anyways, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head with just general tips. And like I said, I'll drop tips as we go, as they come up in my mind. But yeah, pace yourself. Oh, and then I think I'll talk really briefly about scales. Um, I think my next stream I'll probably do more with, or I guess I should play through the scales. I mean, I'll play through the scales really fast, and then we'll move on. Because the only thing I'll say about the scales, I don't really have to say much about the scales. Yeah, I'm not going to play the chromatic scale. Why not? Why not? I would recommend just every day, every time you practice, just run through your scale sheet. If you can't play through your entire scale sheet yet, that's perfectly fine. Play through the scales that you're comfortable with, and then break down the scales you're not comfortable with. And then eventually get to a point where every day you play, after you do whatever fundamental things you like to do first, just run through all your scales. As I know, one of the new things that they changed for scales requirements this year is that you can actually look at a scale sheet while you're in the audition, which is, I don't really care about. I'm still going to emphasize that my students play all their scales memorized. I know I have a good couple that just have their scales memorized. So if they really want to get used to reading off of a sheet, whatever, they can do that. But I'm going to emphasize that they get them memorized because scales are easy. I know for me, I play through my routine. At the very least, I will play through all the major scales, all 12 major scales, 1 octave, and then 2 octaves. I don't worry about arpeggios generally, just because I usually do arpeggios as part of a different fundamental routine exercise that I usually do most days. And lately I've been adding in minor scales, just to get those back in my head, and get back into the swing of practicing. But yeah, so we're going to start with I'm just going to play through all 12 major and minor scales. I'm going to do them all 2 octave. I'm going to attempt arpeggios 2 octave. But like I said, I should probably spend more time with arpeggios, but I don't do scales and arpeggios like GMEA All State does them. I usually just play each scale completely tongued. I don't know. That's just how I like to do it. Which honestly, I recommend playing through your scales in different ways. Not just, obviously, yeah, we do want to be like, oh yeah, tongue up, slur down, easy, whatever. But I think it's also good to play them in different styles, like all tongued, all slurred, tongue 2, slur 2, slur 2, tongue 2, etc., etc. Anyways, I'm going to keep on ranting about this for years, so we're just going to play. We're going to do all 2 octave scales and arpeggios. I know that's not, even for the max tuba scale sheet for symphonic band, it doesn't have all 2 octave scales, but I'm just going to do 2 octave scales because I don't feel like looking at the sheet right now. And figuring out which scales are 1 octave and which scales are 2. So we're just going to do them all 2 octave, which is also something I recommend. If you're very comfortable with all the scales on the max sheet, start adding all 2 octave scales, because why not? Because I mean, realistically, part of the reason they don't do the full 2 octave is, one, because getting above a B flat does get challenging, but I'm not going to say it's the most impossible thing in the world. And then of course the other thing with going lower, if you have a 3-valve tuba, it's trickier to play those low notes. It's not impossible, but you have to play those low notes. If you have 3 valves, you have to play below an E natural with false tones, which are somewhat unreliable. And honestly, I don't really recommend using false tones if you can help it. Obviously, if you just have a 3-valve tuba, you kind of have to do false tones, but anyways. So let's play these scales. And then we'll just jump into the middle school etude. So here we go. Yeah, I definitely need to spend some time polishing my chromatic scale. Admittedly, I haven't touched that one either in a while. um, but yeah, cool. That was scales, and I probably should spend more time on arpeggios. So, cool. Let's move on. So we're going to the first etude. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. So we're doing the first etude. This is the middle school lyrical. Middle school lyrical. Okay. And let me share my screen. There we go. Cool. I think that's a good placement for it. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, that's good enough. But yeah, so we're gonna do the middle school lyrical. Hopefully that looks fine. Let me know if not. But let's take a look, shall we? Alright, so we're in the key of F, so that's pretty easy. We have a couple of B naturals. Otherwise, nothing crazy. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is one I've played. I think the original is in a different key, but I'm very familiar with the general sound of the etude. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer for 10 minutes, and let's go. Cool. So overall, not bad. Obviously, I had quite a few mistakes, right? Let me go ahead and move this on this side. Cool. Okay, quite a few mistakes. Um, Main thing with this one, and I kind of like how they're making the like phrase markings look more like actual phrase markings instead of looking like slur markings. That's a pretty cool change. 'Cause I know when I was growing up, the few auditions I did for GMEA All State, I remember it did look more like slur markings. So it's kind of cool that they're more just like phrase markings. So yeah, even so, I would still say think very light tonguing and keep your air moving. That's my biggest thing with lyrical stuff is focus on keeping your air moving forward and let your tongue do the work of separating the notes. And well, your fingers slightly too, but mostly your tongue. Um, Let me see. What are some general things? Oh, just spend some time with the intervals, like that sixth interval from the F to D that shows up at least 2 times. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I nailed it this first time I did it, but I think this time was a lot closer. So just I would spend some time just making sure all these larger intervals are clear. Like this octave here, it's not connected, so that makes it a little bit easier to pull this one out. And then here's our another largish interval here. And then this drop, make sure this drop is clear. D, oh. I can't sing it very well. D, D, oh, there we go. Kind of. I mean, I'll play it. Let's just play this little phrase from 13. Just make sure all those intervals are clear. So you need to make sure that drop is clear. And like I said, you can slur these. I think that's fine. But if you're going to slur, make sure you aren't accidentally like glissing between them. Which obviously isn't as much of an issue on tuba as it would be on trombone, but it still kind of happens sometimes. Then the other thing, when we get to this last half with these sixteenths, dotted eighth sixteenths, and these dotted quarter 2/16ths here, make sure you're thinking about the subdivisions. I just recommend playing that with sixteenths. You can even go slower. Make sure you're not being too short on those sixteenths as well. Ta 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 ta. Very clear. Ta 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 ta. Obviously, it'll be a bit faster at 92. And the other thing, like I said, at first tempo doesn't matter as much, but eventually, yes, you do want to make sure you're going right tempo, because I think I was probably, if I had to guess, I'm probably too slow. Maybe like closer to 80 or 85. I'm not too far off. Ta 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 ta. Yeah, so I'm gonna play from 17 now, because that one I feel like could be a problem spot where a lot of people might miss that ta 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 ta. Make sure you're really subdividing and thinking where the underlying beats are, right? Because this comes in on the and of 2, right? Ta 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 ta. So this is another case where I would just like fill this in. I think that's really a good suggestion. Just like if you have stuff where there's like random sixteenths like this, fill in these longer notes with sixteenths. Ta 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 ta. And just playing the sixteenths as is. I'm gonna play that really quickly. Let's play it 17. And that's a moment where we can be slightly more aggressive in this lyrical etude, but I would still keep it not too aggressive. And the other part that could be troublesome is that whole last line, right? As we go a little bit higher in the tessitura there, up to that D. And oh, and just another tip for hitting higher jumps like that, I would honestly recommend like trying to fill it in by step. Like I'm gonna go back to 13 over here, and I'm just gonna go from here to here, following the F major scale. I need to turn this on. And that's kind of an easy way of figuring out where that top note is. But I'm going to break down 21 now, just this whole last line, because I feel like that could be a troublesome part. So here we go. I think a big thing to think about with like whenever you see forte or something like that, because obviously what does forte mean? It's loud, right? But I think more importantly, we, especially as tuba players, we just need to think full. It's not necessarily about being like, we're just filling the tuba up extra, right? So think really full. And then piano is like, not puny, but like less full. Because we always want to play with a full, rich sound. But for forte, it's like especially like, and then piano is kind of more, right? It's very slight, subtle difference. Yeah, and then I would say with the, just pay attention to these little changes here. There's not a whole lot of dynamic variance. Ooh, there's our time. Ooh, that scared me. There's not a lot of dynamic variance, so if you want to add in your little dynamic variances of your own, like maybe like a little rise and fall in certain places, that's perfectly fine. But anything that you add that's not here, you have to be super deliberate about it. Otherwise, it might come across as, oh, I don't know how to play this or something. I don't know. But I'm going to give this one last try, and we're going to move on to the technical for middle school. We don't need that. But yeah, cool. And like, I'm speaking a lot about my experiences, but if you're like actively working on any of these, or you just have questions about any of this stuff, please don't hesitate to ask any sort of questions or make comments or whatever. Feel free. But here we go, middle school lyrical etude one last time, and we'll move on to the technical for middle school. I think I'm still a tad slow, but hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of how this sounds. Um, but yeah, and then I would say with this one last note, and I'll promise I'll move on this time. One last note about this last forte here. I think you can either interpret this as like subito, where it's a sudden loud, or you can kind of use these two dotted eighth sixteenths to kind of drive into it. Da 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 da. Kind of use these to drive a little bit into that, because obviously before that we're kind of mostly at piano, but like I said, it's okay if you add dynamic variances that aren't here. You just have to be deliberate and convince the audience that this is what I want to do, right? You kind of have to be a salesman a little bit. Salesperson, I should say. But let's move on. Here's the technical etude for middle school. Let's make sure that's listed there. Cool. And hopefully that's a good size. I know it's kind of weird. Actually, let me try something. Yeah, let's do this. And that'll make it easier to see it. Okay. Nope. All right. Cool. I'll move this over just a tiny bit more. Cool. Okay, hopefully that's slightly better. But anyways, here's the middle school technical etude. I'm going to start the timer and run through it. I guess I'll do this kind of just for all of these, but we're in 6/8, kind of 84. So this time I am going to establish the tempo beforehand, just so I have an ear for it. Yeah, and we have to be aware with 6/8, we can either take it with the eighth note or the dotted quarter. Here we're taking the dotted quarter, so we are thinking more 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, da 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 da, dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee. But we're in the same key. We have a few more accidentals, right? We have a B natural still, but we also have G sharp, C sharp, and another C sharp over here. And yeah, we're in 6/8, so we need to make sure we're keeping that da 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 triplet, 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 da 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 da, dee da 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 dee da da dee da 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 da, dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 dee. But let's try it. Okay. Cool. Sick. We made some mistakes, but that's okay. I think that's an important thing. Well, like I said in the beginning, in case you weren't there, which is partly why I'm doing it. I highly recommend just like starting with a full run, no matter what. Um, make lots of mistakes, and then figure out what you need to do to fix them. So a couple of little things. We missed a couple of notes in that last couple measures, right? Just because I'm not as familiar with this exact one, but I think I played something like this. Um, but the big thing with this one is we have to be very true to the articulation style markings. So, like the beginning, we need to make sure we're making these obvious that these are accented. So this it's kind of, you can almost think about it as a foreshadowing of the forte, right? Because accenting, we're giving a little bit more to the notes, right? Giving a little more emphasis to them. So you can basically just think about this is like mezzo forte here, and this is mezzo forte plus, and then forte. It's kind of vaguely like a crescendo if you really think about it. And then we have to be careful of these. This is the part where I would recommend playing it slowly, which is what we're going to spend part of this next couple of minutes doing, is breaking down some of these little eighth note licks and taking them slowly. Like this arpeggiation here, taking this slowly. And the other thing, like I said, with differentiating these, we make sure these are extra short and that they don't sound like these, right? Obviously, with staccatos don't mean short, it means separated. So we just make sure those notes are nice and separated, as opposed to the rest of the eighth notes that we'll play that don't have articulation markings. And then when we get down here to the 4th line, we need to make sure we're differentiating these. So it's very obvious that we're like emphasizing that this is, oh, we got legato, but we need to be careful that we don't slow it down. And then, yeah, just being very clear with all of the different arpeggios. The big thing with this is arpeggios. So this is one that you might want to spend some time working on arpeggios carefully. And like adding, maybe not just playing flat arpeggios, but like taking an arpeggio and adding a note to the bottom or the top. And then, of course, a lot of arpeggios we see here are descending, right? We have a couple that are going upwards, ascending, but most of them are going downwards, right? We have an ascending one there. Because it feels like a lot of the more ascending lines are more stepwise, like this one, where we're not skipping notes. But this one, like, you're skipping most of the notes. Like here it's stepwise, but otherwise we're skipping down. And then same with a lot of these things. It seems like it's like mostly scalar going up, and then it's when we are descending, it's very much arpeggiations. So let's break down a couple of things. I'll kind of practice this the way I would if I was practicing this for auditions. So I'm just going to start from, actually I'm going to work my way from the back up, just because, yeah, I felt more comfortable with a lot of the stuff on the first half of the page than the back half. Start at 21, or right before 21. And then with those last two measures, just making sure that we're, especially the slow speeds, we can really focus on the length of the notes. Ta 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 ti ta ti ta ta. Just thinking about that. I'm gonna play just those last two measures. And now back to 21. That was much better there. And now, like I said, let's work our way backwards. So now let's go to 17 up here, where we have the kind of back and forth different articulation markings there. Let's try the last two lines, or from 17 on. And I think you can be like, not like super long on that last note, but you can kind of let it hold for a little bit longer. Something more like just give it like a little bit of a tail if you want to. We're gonna keep on going backwards. Here is, actually I'm gonna skip. We're gonna go to measure 7 because that was one that I felt weird about. 7 up here. Actually, we're gonna, yeah, just hit 7. T ta 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 ta. And this one, you might notice from the sound of that, it's a slightly different arpeggiation, slightly different tonality than some of the other like arpeggios that you would play for major scales, right? So something, excuse me, sorry about that. Something you might want to do to kind of practice working in different keys and different tonalities, like stick with one key, like you can choose B flat and try arpeggios sticking within the key of B flat. Something like, oops, there's our timer. So I'm gonna quickly do this exercise and then I'm gonna run this through and I'll move on to concert band. Or I'll give a couple of seconds if there's anyone who's watching who has questions about the middle school etudes before we move completely on from them. But here's just a quick exercise. I haven't thought about this before this moment, so this is probably going to be slightly rough, but we're basically just doing arpeggios, just the first 3 notes. Just like that. I think I need to empty this bit in my first valve. Give me a second. Okay. And we're just staying in the key of B flat, and we're just moving up through the scale. So we'll start with a B flat arpeggio, then we'll do a C arpeggio, then we'll do a D, etc., all while staying within the key of B flat. So that means when we go to D, we're not switching to the key of D, but we're staying within the key of B flat. So here we go. Ah. And etc. You can kind of repeat that in any keys you want, and that's just a simple way of kind of thinking about the tonalities. Because as we went through it, yes, there was quite a few that were still like major arpeggios, but there's also quite a few that are minor arpeggios. And that last arpeggio we did, the A on A, it's a diminished arpeggio, which we don't really see the diminished triad very much, or we do, but it's slightly weirder, right? Because we have, instead of the pure like major tonality, it's flat at the top and the middle, so it's a little bit stranger, extra strange than the major. So it's important, that's just a simple way of kind of doing arpeggiations. And I mean, you can even just like do something where you write it out on a paper or something, and you add random accidentals to the arpeggio just to see how it sounds and how it changes it. Just experiment with different tonalities. But anyways, I'm going to play through this technical etude once, then I'm going to take like a quick couple of seconds because I realized I forgot to do this earlier today, but I need to oil my valves. So I'm going to take a second to oil my valves, and while I'm doing that, feel free to ask any questions about any of the etudes, particularly about middle school. But if you're not a middle schooler watching this, then, whatever. But anyways, here's the middle school technical etude. I'm just going to get the tempo in my head first, and then we'll get started. Okay, here we go. Obviously, not perfect, but that's not the purpose of the stream. I will say I'm really bad about recording videos, but I will at the very least have a stream after I've spent more time with these etudes and gotten them down to almost perfect, and we'll have a stream where I just play through all of them kind of in a row, share some more tips, but more focusing on just getting a really good recordings from me out there. But yeah, cool. I think there's something else I had to say. I don't know. Anyways, cool. We're gonna move on. Like I said, I'm going to minimize this for a second. Just to keep this so we're kind of more sight reading these kind of. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna take a second to oil my valves. So give me a second while I find my valve oil. Otherwise, any questions? Anything? How are we feeling about the stream so far? Is everyone having a great day? I hope everyone is doing well. like I said earlier in the stream, I spent my morning doing a instrument petting zoo, where at one of the schools I work at, I they have like a instrument petting zoo thing they do that they open up to their community, and it's really cool because since it's a private school that teaches to all grades, or at least from elementary through K through 12. So there's like always a mixture of high schoolers, middle school, or not as many high schoolers, but at least there's like a mixture of like sixth graders, lots of elementary schoolers. Because this school is like, because like the event isn't just for brass and woodwinds, it's for like the whole music department. So on one side they have all the winds, and then on the other side they have more of the strings, piano. So they have like one or two people there to talk about choir and stuff like that. But it's a really cool event because it's like there's always like this like 5-year-olds who will come by and try the tuba. And it's like I have at that point at that age I have to hold the tuba for them, you know. Because the 5-year-old isn't going to be able to hold an instrument that's basically the same size as them, very clearly. Um, but it's still a fun time, and it's like especially cool. And I don't know, today's like especially felt really good because a lot of them, to me at least, um, it feels like a lot more people avoid the tuba, which I kind of get. It's a large instrument. At first glance, it doesn't look like the most glamorous thing in the world. It's certainly not as cool as the saxophone, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. But but it feels like a lot of people like will like more like try to avoid it and be like, I don't want to. But today it seemed like there was quite a few that were like interested, and then there was quite a few that actually like came up and played and was like, "Oh my God, you're a tuba player! Congratulations!" And it's really cool to see and hear that. I know I did another one I did recently. They have it set up where each student can only do 3 instruments, which makes sense in the sense of like saving time. Because otherwise, one evening of trying to have like 150 kids or over 100 kids trying out each of the wind instruments can get long. um, so they just did 3, and it was funny. And I would have a few of them. I had a few of them that like played because I was doing one for trombone, euphonium, tuba, a station that was testing all of those. So most kids would come up and be like, "I'm here for the trombone." And I was like, "Okay, sure." I mean, not really, but I was being emphasized positive about it and encouraging. But it was kind of like in my head, I was kind of like, man, it'd be nice if like half of these people would have also put down tuba. Because it's funny, like some of them like put down trombone and euphonium, which, you know, obviously, yeah, they're different instruments, but in terms of trying them out to see if you would be good on it, it's basically the same experience. The only difference is for trombone, obviously, you're trying to see, do I think this student's arm will be able to fit the full length of the slide? And then it's like, just like they get an opportunity to like kind of feel which instrument they like better, right? Um, but it's still, I feel like it's still kind of a wasted opportunity when they could have just said, I want to do trombone euphonium, and then I want to do something else. Because it's like, that's a slot they could have tried. Like, they could have tried flute or clarinet, and like let's say they put down tuba or trombone euphonium and they sucked, they couldn't play it very well, which is fair. I mean, brass is one of the weirdest instruments to play. Let's be real. You buzz. That's how you play a brass instrument at the very basic level. If you can't do that, it's not impossible, but it's hard to approach. Which wind instruments just in general are hard to approach because unlike like piano and string instruments and even vocals to a point, but that's a whole nother thing. We can't just pluck a string or press a key and something happens. It's a combination of pressing a key, button, whatever you want to call it, and making sure our lips are in the right configuration, right? So it's approaching it is one of the hardest things out there, which kind of sucks, but I don't know. It's one of those things where in today's age where everyone's really just like wants to consume things that are like a minute or less, or maybe 2 minutes max. It's like, oh, you can't just spend a minute or two on a tuba or any wind instrument and be at a good place. That's not realistic at all for most people. There are some people, sure, who could come up to a brass instrument for the first time and be able to play it just fine. That happens, obviously. There's child prodigies that are prodigies on anything that could do that. But for the average person, that's not you, unfortunately. I don't mean that to be mean. I'm just kind of being realistic. I know that was for me. I struggled for so many years. I know where I went to middle school. Sorry, we couldn't even start on tuba. There was like a couple of instruments like tuba, oboe, saxophone, and maybe percussion that weren't like instruments they could initially start with. Well, first of all, the first semester of band was literally just we played recorder. And then at a point we like got tested for instruments and we got placed in those instruments, and the initial testing was minus a couple of instruments, which I guess kind of makes sense, but I've done plenty of these since then to know it doesn't really matter. Like it's perfectly fine to like try a sixth grader on oboe or tuba or saxophone or whatever the other instruments that were like, oh, bassoon was probably one of them too. It's fine. Like sure, it's like those instruments are oboe, bassoon are more difficult, and for sixth grader, tuba is not going to fit a lot of sixth graders, at least not a lot of the ones I've seen near me. So starting a sixth grader on tuba maybe isn't the best idea, but I mean, if they have the chops for it, you might as well. And there are plenty of tools that can help the student adjust to the instrument, like tuba stands. What is it? I have the cloth thing around here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I don't know. There's the drawer liner, which I use every once in a while. I have a roll of it somewhere. That's what I was just looking around for, but I have no clue where I put it right now. Yeah. And I don't really feel like getting up to look for it. But I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling about things. But ultimately, when you're choosing instruments, the important thing is to choose the instrument you want to play. The big things to take, if you do well on an instrument, sure, you should go for it, because that just means you'll have a better time, an easier time of getting to a good point. But if you decide to go for an instrument just because you like it, and you test for it and you do horribly, but you still want to go for it, sure, you might be able to get to a point where you do well on it, but it's going to take you longer than if you actually chose something that you're good at. And sometimes it's inevitable, where you have to go with an instrument that you don't want, because instruments like saxophone, trumpet, I would say flute, percussion, and trombone, everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to play those instruments. So, but the truth is, not everyone can play those instruments. Just because, obviously, in a band, like, sure, it would be kind of interesting to see a band that was literally just one instrument. It'd be kind of weird. But yeah, so that's why it's important that it's like, sometimes, unfortunately, you do kind of have to go with an instrument that you might not want to play. But I think it's important to have an open mind when you're selecting a wind instrument in a concert band, because you never know. You might actually like what you get placed on. And I would just recommend whatever you get placed on that you're like good at, that you played well on, it was easy to play, easy to pick up and play for you, try it for at least a year or two. And if at the end of that year or two, you still feel like you really want to try X other instrument that you couldn't play, that they wouldn't place you on before, go for it, try it. But I recommend for the first year, 2 or 3, to just stick with one instrument. Because like I said, with picking up these instruments, they're very weird. Like brass instruments, we have to think about inside of this. Obviously, it's a lot easier playing through the instrument than it is to try to do it without the instrument. But it's still weird. And the more time you spend on trying to get good at that, the easier time you'll have at moving to other instruments that play like that. I don't know why this turned into a rant about instrument placements. I guess because I've been doing those lately. But anyways, shall we get on with the concert band etudes? I think it's about time we moved on. I think my valves are all good and flowing smoothly. So yeah, let's pull up the concert band etudes and keep it going. Any questions about anything? Go to the, wait, nope, that was the wrong thing. I'm gonna move just above that. Can I? Oh, there's one. There's how we do it. Boop, boop. There we go. We're moving. Okay, but yeah, so we're gonna move on. Here is the concert band etudes. Like I said, we're gonna do the same thing we did with the other ones. Spend 10 minutes on each one, and then we're gonna move from there. This one's a bit faster, so I am gonna put the tempo on. Da, 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 dee, da, 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 dee, da, da, dee, da, dee, da, 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 da. That was something slightly weird in there, but whatever. Let's try it. Okay, where's the timer? 10 minutes. Here we go. Here's concert band Lyrical. We're back in. Cool. So this was a tricky one. I would say, like, the beginning measures, think so broad. Like, they should have, like, it should say broad, but I would say da da dee da dee da da. Just really broad. That's all I'm gonna say about those opening measures. And also, just I like to think about it at halftime because there's nothing really else to worry about. Do, do. And then when we get to the last measure of that line, kind of switching back into the four. Do, 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 three. Ba, dee, dee, da, dee, da. And don't take a breath where I just breathed. That was not at all what you want to do. Do, dee, da, da, dee, do. And breathe there. And that's another thing that I should have mentioned more about with the previous one. Make sure you mark out every place you want to breathe, no matter what. Even if there's like a rest, like here's obviously a place where to breathe to. So just mark in all of those breath marks. I wish this had a draw. It has a highlight, but that doesn't really help. What is this? No, that's not what I want. Yeah, because that's just going to do that. Okay. Get out of here. Yeah. Yeah, that's not what I want. But anyways, yeah, so just make sure you're... I lost my train of thought. Anyways, moving on to these little bits. These are parts where I would say, like, try to normalize the octave. Instead of, like, going up the octave at first, think... Do, 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 do. Kind of like staying like right under the staff. I'll demonstrate a little bit. You probably won't have as hard time as I am, just because B flat for me is 2 and 4. It's my B natural. It's B natural. Same finger as B natural on a B flat tuba. So it's a little weird for me to play that down an octave, but should be fine down an octave. And then when you're comfortable with it, of course, go up the octave. And I would also say, take this slow. Like, those longer notes might feel like long as all get out, but take it slowly. just to really feel it. And then when you go faster, but yeah, and obviously when you spend more time on it than like 2 minutes, it'll be better. But just take it slowly, and I would even say try to practice it like do like a beat plus one like this. And you can kind of rinse and repeat that for a lot of these kind of things. And then kind of same thing at measure 9. Try it down an octave at first. And the big thing is count carefully. Make sure you place these longer notes in the right places. I feel like a common thing I'm going to hear from this is that I'm going to hear students either hold this too long or too short. And the exact length I'm not going to hear. I mean, maybe I'll hear it a lot, but I feel like a common mistake a lot of people are going to have at first is not play that exact length. So just make sure 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Just keep that in your head. And I would say, like we said with the previous one, think about the subdivision. So I'll play that little lick with the eighth notes in between, fill in those longer notes. You can go further and add the 16ths if you want to. I'm not going to demonstrate. I don't really feel like doing that right now, but you can do that. The other thing with this, like we said the previous one, isolate these intervals. Like we have a lot, this one especially has a lot of big intervals, right? We have that octave that shows up a lot from the E flats. So just spend some time working on octave exercises, like something like this. There's a million different variations you can do to work on octaves. You can even like do like practice scales with this, like do a full scale going up, da 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 da, da dee da, da 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 da, and just like go in the order of your scales, and just practicing doing that like this kind of. That was a fast 10 minutes. But give me one more minute to work on it. But hopefully that kind of makes sense with that. Like I said, there's like a million different ways you can do octave exercises. That's just a few suggestions. I'm going to wrap this up just by saying, because a lot of this is, I mean, you can kind of do the same things that we talked about. Isolate each beat so that you're playing each one carefully. And then as you drop down to that lower range there and then the next line, just stay open for those notes. I think we covered a lot of the things. So yeah, let's give it one more attempt and we'll move to the technical. Okay. There's one thing I wanted to say. This was one of the little mistakes I made the last time. I don't know, but like I said, today I'm not gonna. I don't expect to play any of these perfectly today. And you know, whatever, that's fine. We keep rolling though, and that's the big thing. You just gotta keep going. Try what you can. Because obviously, like 10 minutes, you're not gonna do any. You're not gonna do too much work unless you've played it before. Which, no, I don't know. Anyways, let's look at the technicals, shall we? Taka, 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 ta-ta, kata. 1, 2, ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. So the big thing here is just staying active and really pay attention to where the quarter notes are and where it's not a quarter note, right? Because we have a lot of ta-ta, ta-ta, right? But then occasionally at the end of the phrases, it likes to go ta-ta, 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 ba. So we got to stay active so we catch all of those, because the more of those we catch, the better. And then in the last half, I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit so we fit this on the screen. There we go. Let's try maybe 80, 85%. Perfect. The last half, we have to be conscious. God, I can't speak today. Active. I'm going to say that. With the change in rhythm and style, it goes from being very articulate to very legato. So we need to make sure we're playing that 'Cause where's that start? Ba-bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Anyways, I'm just gonna play it and then we'll talk more about it. I know that's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so I played the real version of this one a few times. It's been a minute, and this one's very slightly different. I want to say it's at least in a different key, so that makes it slightly weirder to play. And then the transition around 21 feels slightly different than I'm used to, but that's how it is, so that's how you gotta play it. So a couple of things, like I was saying, we need to make sure we're really emphasizing the change in style. The beginning is very, think about this word, decisive, which sounds kind of like decisive, right? So we want to think very decisive. Think very precise with that first half. And of course, obviously we still want to keep precise, but it becomes less decisive, less precise as we get into the sostenuto here. This is like this whole line from pick up to 17 into this whole bar is kind of like a transition kind of thing from the previous idea into the new idea. Pa-pom, pa-dom, pa-pom, pa-dom, 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 ba, 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 bum, 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 ba, bum, 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 bum. And that's where the second theme actually starts, right? So the first one, we want to be very clear, like I think, yeah, we are emphasizing these like middle, it's highlighting everything. We are emphasizing these kind of like quarter notes, right? Ta-da, 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 ta-da. At first, when you're practicing this, I would recommend kind of like pulsing just a little bit here, just to think about this beat. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. And then being ready for here where it changes, right? Instead of being a beat 3/4, it's a beat 3 dotted eighth. So just be ready for that. The other thing we need to I would say with this last half, we can kind of think about this like a lyrical etude almost. So you can add in slight little dynamic changes if you like. And then just be, like I said, we want to think sustained, sostenuto, but make sure we're still keeping this tempo at the top. Until the ritardando at the end, but until then we want to keep the same pulse. Ta-da, 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 dee-do, 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 do, 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 dee, do, do, dee-do, do, 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 dee, do, do, dee-do, dee da da da, dee da da dee, dee da da dee do, dee da da dee, dee da da dee do, dee da 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 da, dee da da dum. Just keep that pulse. And then of course with the second half, we're kind of doing similar with the first half in a way, where we're emphasizing one specific note. Where in the first half we're going ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. Second half we're going dee-da-da-da, da, dee-da-da-da, da. We want to make that note stick out a bit. Maybe not like tons, but it needs to be like obvious, like, oh, there's an accent on that second on that note. So you need to make sure that's clear. And then we need to be very careful with all of our accidentals. I know 21 is kind of weird. That's one I would, from like here to this last E flat here in 21, I would recommend playing that down an octave, kind of like this, just to get used to what it sounds like. And then I would honestly recommend doing that with a lot of these little patterns. Like keep the bottom notes more or less the same, but like these in between kind of things, bring them to a more comfortable octave for these first two lines. Well, here's somewhat comfortable. This should be more comfortable than the first couple of measures, maybe. But yeah, and then as we get down lower, it gets a little bit easier. You might even want to, like, if you're uncomfortable with the low F at first, you might even want to think about taking it up an octave just to get the feel of playing an F. Because ultimately, like I said, an F is an F is an F is an F, no matter the octave. The only thing that changes is fingerings. And even so, we can play any F with literally the same fingering. I mean, obviously the lower F works better with 4 on a B flat tuba, but we can also play it, I think we can kind of play it with a false tone open, but I don't recommend it. Please, please, I don't want to see kids trying to play those low Fs with false tones. And I shouldn't manifest that by saying that, but anyways. I'm going to try just the last little bit, just because this bit is really tricky. I know when I was practicing the real one, it took me a little bit to grasp this part. It's not too terrible, but we just need to stay active with playing the right accidentals, because they're very distinct. But anyways, I'm going to start from pick up to 21. Or, sorry, pick up to 17. Yeah. Yeah, just like I said, biggest thing when playing any of these, no matter whether it's the technical or the lyrical, take it slowly, get it to a comfortable speed. Don't feel like you need to rush through it. I'm going a little faster through it than I probably should, just because I'm more comfortable. I know what it's supposed to sound like, because I've played the actual version of this one, Blazhevich 4. Yeah. It's a fun one. And I will say this, I do recommend trying the full etudes of these, but I would say wait to do that until after your auditions. Unless you're ready more than a month in advance. Then go ahead and look at it, but I wouldn't confuse yourself by going to find the original, because oftentimes the original is in a different key. It's transposed for these to make it more comfortable, which I've grown to agree with. I think it's a great decision. It makes it more accessible. Um, it makes it more accessible and comfortable. Yeah. But anyways, I'm going to play this through once, and then we're going to move on to the last two, which are Symphonic Band. Here we go. That went by really well, except for my choking in the middle of that. The last thing I meant to address this earlier, but be careful with this measure 8 here, the C low F. Make sure this low F is only 2 beats. I think I've extended it both of the times I played it, but just make sure it's clear. Bum, bum, ba-dum, be-dum, ba-ah. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Just be clear with that. Subdivide in your head, and then it'll help you to find it. Okay, let's pull out the last lyrical etude for the day. Symphonic Band. Oh boy. This is one I browsed at. Nope. This is one I browsed earlier in the week just to kind of look at it. And I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this one. So I've also played this one. Bordoni, I haven't played it from that book, but I've played this one. Don da dee dee da dum bum ba da dee dum dee da dum dum. I'm a little bit off, but let's play it. Let me make sure I'm right on the right tempo really fast. We'll start the tempo. I'm a little bit fast. Okay. Here we go. So we are cool. I got started. So the big thing with this one, don't be confused by the 3/8. It looks more challenging than it is, but think about the 3/8 as a 3/4. So basically, quarter notes are actually half notes, and eighth notes are quarter notes. So ponder that. So the first beat is actually ta, 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 right? So I think there was one or two measures where I got it off. Big thing I would recommend when you first get this is with that in mind as the eighth note, and we know the eighth note gets the beat because it says eighth note equals 72. Mark in each measure, put like little hash marks where each beat is. That's what I would do. And I'll hopefully, wait. I can't draw. Okay. So I would like put down hashes. Like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we know that's 3 because this, we said eighth note is one beat. And then it's confusing to look at, but this is a 16th dotted 16th note, which would be the same as a dotted 8th note. So that makes a 32nd note. That's 3 flags. This 32nd is the same as a 16th note. So ta, ti ta, ta, ta. And then here we have beat 1, beat 2, and then where's beat 3? It is right here. Because remember, eighth note gets the beat, so this is one beat. I did that way bad. It's hard doing this with the mouse, but that's one beat. So these, even though it's hard to see, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, so maybe it gets clear as I zoom further in. Pan. Yeah, there we go. We can see all the things. Why did the draw symbol disappear? Draw freehand. Cancel. Oh, it's right here. I'm not okay. Anyways. Yeah, so this, even though this is a lot of notes, that's one solid beat. We have 1 and ienda. Or it's something weirder, but you know what I mean. 1 da 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 da. Just think da 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 da. Bum bum ba da da dee. This is an and right here. It's technically an and. So this is like a, I forget what the thing is below E, but we're gonna say like 1 E and this is So we're gonna say this is like, and I don't know. I don't know. IY, sure, why not? We don't use those ones. So it's like and da da da. And this is one I would recommend. You might even want to go slightly slower just to get an idea for what this feels like. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. And that's the eighth note. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Just think of it. I mean, the biggest thing, think about it like a pickup, basically. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing with this is find where all those beats are. 1, 1, or sorry, that's not. Frick. Yeah, sorry, beat 2 in this measure would be actually here, because this is basically a dotted quarter note, if we want to think in 3/4, and then this is beat 3, etc., etc. Just think like that. You know, it's kind of weird, but that's how it is. And then it's the same thing here. This is basically an eighth note, and this would be beat 2 somewhere in there, and then that would be beat 3. Dun da 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 da. And you can kind of, I don't know, it compresses these very much, but this is a 60. These are 64. 64th or 32nd, whatever you want to think. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Whatever. But so let's play that, just that whole little bit. We're going to try from the beginning, and I'm just going to play up until this breath mark here. So that's kind of the general gist of what you want to do there. It's very much like a grace note, essentially, if you want to think about it that way. We're leading into it. Think about it less as like, I would say honestly, don't really worry about like what specific thing it is. Just think, just think at first, like think of the eighth notes, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and da 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 dum 3 da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum ba da da dum bum ba da da dum bum ba da da dum. It's kind of the, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like thinking in cut time. In a way, well, maybe not completely, but we need to think about, like in cut time, sure, it's like we think about it as 1 2 1 2 1 2, and it looks like 4 4, right? But here we want to think about that bigger beat, not the smaller beat, like 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 da da dum 1 2 da da dum 1 2 ba da dum 1 2 ba da dum. You can spend time doing that and then thinking 1 2 ba da dum ba da dum ba da dum 1 da da dum 1 2 da dum, doing something like that. But focus on leading into it. Don't focus on like placing these exactly in the right place. Focusing on making these lead towards this C up here. I'm going to play just the beginning one more time. And then, yeah. And we'll work on more of the rest. But anyway. That's our time, but you can kind of use these same techniques for the rest of it. Biggest thing, it can be so confusing reading in 3/8. I know whenever I'm reading Bordoni etudes that are in time signatures like this, I think there's always a part of me that's slightly confused, but the more time over the years I've spent working on these etudes and the weirder key signatures, I think it's really helped me understand how to play in normal key signatures a lot better. And it certainly makes like some of these notes feel a lot more approachable. Can I just get rid of, is there an eraser? So I don't super like, we're just gonna use the good old Control Z. Oh god. Does that not work? Cool. But think about those kind of things as you practice this. Um, I'm just clearing them so I can see the notes more clearly. But please, please, please don't hesitate to mark on your music. If you really want to, you can even make a couple of copies of your music and have one copy that's like you like focus on rhythm on and do stuff like that and figuring out like, okay, this is on the after the and of the three. So anyways, I'm gonna play this through one more time and then we'll move on to our last etude of the day, the technical etude for symphonic band. And yeah, so here we go. Cool. Something like that. But sorry, there's always like one little thought that comes to me in the final time I play this. Any of these. I mean, it keeps on happening. Yeah, biggest thing I'd recommend, like I said, figure out where the beats are and then focus on making music later. I know for me, when I'm approaching music, I like to think about it in like 3 or 4 steps. One is to focus on the notes and rhythms only. Don't worry about any sort of dynamic or inflections or whatever. Just find the notes and the rhythms. Separate them. So like even like just like going like for that last little line, going up to the high G, just focusing, just going playing the notes up to the G. And then maybe adding the rhythm or just doing the rhythm. And then combining the two. And yeah. Oh, the one thing I'll say, this is the thought that came to my head. I still think I can do more with the dynamics in here, so don't take my dynamic contrast in here or lack thereof as this is the way it needs to be played. This is literally, because I think I have played this exact kind of version of it before this year, um, but I haven't gotten to the mindset of these are the dynamics that I need to hit yet. But like I said earlier in the stream, um, I am going to do a more kind of thorough live stream with this stuff once I've taken time to practice this and stuff. But yeah, so let's move on to our technical and we'll be done for the day. Cool. Alright, it's this one. I'm going to zoom out for this one as well. I think 85 worked for the other one pretty well. Is there not any of the bum bum? Interesting. Okay, well, anyways, here we go. I'll explain a little bit of my confusion with this. I'm actually going to play the original of this. I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect because it's been a hot minute since I didn't start my timer, did I? Let's do that. Okay. I'm not going to say it's going to be a perfect playing, but I'm going to play it just to show you what the original sounds like. Because the main thing that I was confused about before I started playing is this one kind of, because we see a lot of the rhythm, the ta 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 ta, right? That's a lot. But the original version of this, and this could be an errata. Maybe it's supposed to have these, but they forgot to put them in. The original version of this has a couple of times where it swaps the place of the eighth note and the dotted eighth note. So instead of going ta 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 ta, it goes ta 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 ta. Which I think in the original added a lot of interesting variants, and especially as a lot of tuba parts are very repetitive like this, I think it's a disservice to keep it this repetitive. So I could be wrong, and they've just cut out all the bits where that shows up. But to me, to an initial look, it looks like they've replaced those with the one rhythm. I'm not going to say it's a basic rhythm. It's obviously not a basic rhythm. This isn't, well, maybe I would have a kid try it. It's not the hardest rhythm in the world, but it's definitely not a rhythm that's, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's easy. Ta, 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 ta. Whatever. It definitely, looking at it, I know I've looked at this rhythm so many times. The most famous place you'll see this kind of rhythm is in Die Valkyrie, Ride of the Valkyries. This is the same exact rhythm and kind of the same kind of thing. Bum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum bum. It's the same kind of thing. Ta 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 dun dun da dun 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum. And it just, I mean, Valkyrie, Ride of the Valkyries just kind of sticks with that solid rhythm. It doesn't have the variance, like I said. But anyways, let's talk about how to play this. I'm sorry for ranting about the change in it. I just think it's a slight disservice for them to simplify it like this. Um, because I know something I thought about recently, and that's often overlooked by tuba players and just players in general. So we often get stuck in patterns like this, and when something different happens, we more than often miss it. That happens to me. I've seen plenty of students do it, but I think by missing that, we kind of miss the opportunity to help our students grow with these etudes. But all that aside, let's talk about what to work on. Biggest thing, just like I said, this rhythm is just ta 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 ta. That's the rhythm. Then when we get to the kanmoto, I would say think about it less as we're going faster. Think about it more as we're kind of like sneaking around. That's what I like to think about. Because I think we should be just a teeny bit faster. But think about a little bit more motion than here. Because here I feel like it's very lifted. Like it says at the beginning, Madaro I pesante, which pesante meaning heavy. It's a very heavy kind of feeling. And then here, I think a better descriptive term is think light. Of course, all this is leading into this kind of sostenuto kind of thing, much like the concert band etude that they chose. It has this is like a lyrical section, so you kind of want to make it really milk it for all it's got. Just think. And then when we get here, immediate switch back to kind of more the style at the beginning. And I will say, since this is poco poco rallentando, you don't have to do a big slowdown here. I think I might have done like a little bit too slow of a slowdown when I played it through. It could be, I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things where it's up for interpretation. The biggest thing about any sort of thing like this, rallentando, accelerando, retardando, whatever, you want to convince them that it's intentional. So keep the pulse in your head, and these are the moments where you really want to subdivide. So it seems natural, and it's not like very slanty. You want to keep it going. It's like you're going slightly downhill. That's all you want to think about doing through here. And then of course, the ending, you're just going to pick up where you started. It's kind of like the opening is like very like light, and it's, I mean, of course it's more heavy, but it's overall very light and happy of a etude. So you want to think in that motion, especially in the beginning. And the ending, we kind of go towards a dark place a little bit in the end. We go from this light and happy B flat major to kind of a darker G minor that kind of pops out of nowhere. It's like bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum, or bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum. Of course, keep the tempo going. Don't slow down there like I kind of just sang it. I'm trying to think of other things to work on. At this point, if you're at this level, you should be kind of more understanding of some of these notes and rhythms. But I would still say if things feel higher, like here, I would probably work on this down an octave. Da 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 dee da 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 dee da da da. Just to get it comfortable, I'll play that once. But like I said, you really want to make sure when you get to this point, it's an immediate change. Dee da, dee da da, da da dee da da dee. I'm gonna try that one more time, just see if I can really nail that change. That was the timer, but since I ranted so much about the differences between this and an original, we're going to spend just a tiny bit more time on this, if that's okay. I'm sure those of you who are watching, who are actively working on this, might appreciate that, but I just want to spend a little bit more time because I'm sorry I kind of got into a rant about it. Um, but yeah, that was better. You just want to make sure that's clear. And something I just want to point out with art, I guess two things. One thing, with this lyrical, you might think it's weird that this one and the past one had lyrical sections, but I think it's fine. If you think about it, lyrical is a kind of technique. That's something I heard a long time ago. I remember at a master class, someone was playing like a this solo. I think it had a lyrical section and then had like more technical section. That was like more marcato, staccato, articulated. um, and I remember they were saying like they played the lyrical parts great, and then when we got the technical stuff, it was less great. And one of the comments that the teacher said um, is that lyrical is a type of technique, is it not? Um, so it's perfectly in nature for a technical etude to have this. And I think honestly, mixing the two kind of does better to show how well you can change between the two styles. And then moving on to this, because obviously this is a this is our most different articulation style here, because we want to think kind of separate but still moving. I think ta 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 ti da da. It's just very light. Think very lifted. Ta 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 ti. I'm gonna play this one more time so you can kind of hear it. I'm gonna start. Yeah, I'm just gonna start right on it. Think about it as you're keeping the air moving forward, but you're just lightly tonguing each note. And then my overall recommendation for vibrato is if you can do it well, do it. If you can't do it, don't worry about it. If you come through with a not so great vibrato, it could cost you some points. Um, just some overall pleasing. But if you can like really execute it well, go for it. But if you don't feel comfortable with vibrato, you don't need to learn vibrato to play these well. Okay, I'm going to play this through once, and then I'm going to pull out the original. We're going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to pull out the original version of this, and we're going to kind of compare and contrast just a tiny bit. Yeah, but here's the technical etude one last time. Cool. I missed a couple little things there, but overall that was pretty good. I felt pretty good about that. Yeah, big thing with this is you need to be like kind of on a dime, ready to move to the next style, because they're very sudden. The other one, it kind of had a transition, and this one we have like a very small transition, I would say here, but it's mostly just flowing, and I need to get used to using this draw line, but obviously I'm not used to it, but it's fine, whatever, whatever. Like always, there's one last thing I want to say about this before we move on and compare and contrast. Oh, yeah. And the big thing about practicing, and this goes for everything, not just this specific etude, but for everything you play it through at least 2 or 3 times. So I did a couple things that time that I was like this, I didn't start playing more articulated until here maybe. I heard myself playing these 2 notes slurred, kind of more slurred tenuto, and I was like, ah, crap. And then I caught it kind of here. And then I didn't really do this rallentando at all until kind of here. So, and it doesn't matter. I feel like this rallentando, you don't have to stretch it out through these entire 3 bars. In fact, I feel like personally, it's a little bit too long of a rallentando. That might be just me. I don't know. Whatever. But biggest thing, just take your time, break things down. Yeah, and then the other thing, I really should have worked on this little section a little bit more, because that was pretty bad. Pretty bad, right? So just break things down, take things to comfortable ranges, because like you can do these like where you take this keep the first note, but then take these second grouping of notes here down an octave, right? I know that's what I would do some if I was really working on this for the first time. Take these down an octave or play it in the octave, it doesn't matter. Or you can take all of it down an octave. Whatever, do whatever's comfortable for you. Just big thing in learning anything is to break things down. And yeah, so let's take a look at this. The Blazhevich. Let me find it. Give me like 5 seconds. While I'm looking, are there any questions or comments at all about anything tuba related, but especially like related to these etudes? Which one was it? 21. Anyone? It's okay if you don't have questions. I'm just kind of curious. I like answering things. These things are a lot more fun for me when I have people to talk to and engage with. Yeah. Here's what I'm talking about. I wish I could put these side by side in this. There might be a way to do that, but I'm not going to figure it out. Let's see, measure 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 and 10, we have an iteration of the ta-ta. You see that? Right there. Now that's different than this first measure. So let's look at that. It's the measure after the first iteration of this. Let's go back. I think it's also a little bit, is it really 1, 2, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that is right. So yeah, these two measures should be different. Bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-dum beam ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-dum bum bum ba-dee ba-dum beam ba-dum bum. Yeah, those should totally be different. And then I think those are the only two measures, because we kind of stop. Where is it? I mean, I think we skip some, because that is how it ends, right? It ends exactly as there, but we skip, like, we do, is there just like some sort of skip in here? Yeah, but I'm gonna play this through just because it's kind of a fun one, I think. This might not sound great, but you know, that's fine. We're a little scuffed here sometimes, and that's okay. But yeah, that is kind of, I might inquire about that. I don't want to raise too much craziness, but I think it's it's not a detriment, but I think we're doing our students a disservice by making this change. Because like, yeah, I think part of the purpose of this is to throw you off guard intentionally, but if a student were to come to this after getting used to playing this technical etude, they would especially be thrown for a loop. Because, right, it is, I'm not going insane that it's different, right? Yeah. It is insane. Or, no, I'm not in, well, it is different. I don't know. It's not really my problem. It is and it isn't my problem. But anyways, like I said, we're going to finish off the stream just by playing through this. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I really love doing these types of streams. I know I'm not the most consistent with videos and streams and whatever, but I appreciate y'all for being there and coming out whenever I do this. It looks like we had like almost 20 people viewing throughout this stream at some point or another, which is pretty cool. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you for coming by. And I hope this was helpful. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope you found some little gems and nuggets to help you prepare these. If you have any sort of questions at all, feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. I can't think of anything else, really. If you're looking for someone to actively help you with these kinds of things, you can feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. think I have that linked in my description. I can't remember. Yeah, just Instagram. I mean, it says it on the screen. It's just instagram.com/@tubaloaf. So, yeah, if you're looking for someone to help you more on a personal level with these, feel free to reach out to me there, and I will try to get back to you and set up something where we can talk. But anyways, here's Blazhevich 21. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Here we go. Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope you gained a lot of knowledge from that. I hope that was helpful to you in some way. And like I said, stay tuned for more stuff. I do have a couple of things, a couple little videos planned. I just need to really push myself to do it. And I might try to really do more streams here. Someone will just be chatting about some of the ideas I have, and then I'll kind of extrapolate those ideas from the streams and make the videos from those. So maybe that'll be helpful. And if I don't, the ideas will be out there on my streams. Anyways, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you later. And have a great one.